lifting their time limits. I'm not limited by 15 minutes anymore. So I posted like a 40-minute video, the entire section of Meyer discussing general vampires. So it's nice to not be limited now. I don't feel constrained. I can ramble as long as I want, which, is all the worse for you guys. But we'll see how it goes. Okay, so next segment. You guys appreciate this. I was making icons to do. I put that off to make this. Believe me, I'd much rather be looking at stills from Supernatural 618 Frontierland than look at this. But I love you guys, so. Okay, next section is it's another big section, Covens. And I'm going to tell you now, I've skimmed through this, and it's, the Cullens are the first ones up. They've got a general overview at first, and then she goes into each one of the characters one at a time. Depending on how long I ramble on the first one up, we'll see how many I fit into one section. But I'm thinking I'm going to do them one at a time and just post them rapid fire until we get the Cullen Coven done, and then I'll take a break. I figure that's what I'll do. So let's just get right in. The Cullen Coven. General overview time. They put more value on human life than do most of their peers. Yeah, right. Alice had to remind everyone it helps if you think of them as humans. You don't actually have to, if you think of them as people. You don't actually have to think of them as people, but it helps you not want to eat them. And then, of course, let's not get into Edward. Oh, then there's Esme, who was glad that Edward was either going to kill or turn some human chick because it meant her son wasn't gay, and isn't that just a reason to rejoice? There's Carlisle, who gladly assists and enables people eating vampires and eating people. There's Rosalie, who talked about how two guards that were guarding her ex-fiance, she mentioned, they only took a second to kill, even though she could have easily just scared them off or knocked them out. There's Jasper, who I lovingly call Harry Wrote Jasper from Wait Until Dark. That guy is a psycho. He is the scariest person Meyer's ever written, even over Edward, so that says something. And then there's even Emmett. And you know how much I love Emmett, but he's not immune. There's Emmett, who was laughing, I was such a troublemaker, I was so hard to contain when I killed and ate that innocent old woman way back when. Yeah, they clearly put more value on human life than most of their peers do. Why do they eat animals? I don't get it. To this day, I don't get it. They stay 6 or 7 years in one location, own several residences. They can return to places they've especially enjoyed. So they just own those houses. They just sit there and own them. Wouldn't that get suspicious too? Wouldn't someone want to maybe buy that and ask about it or something? But also, only after enough time has passed they won't be recognized as the same people who once lived there. That doesn't work. Because they didn't. They only waited 70 years before they returned to Forks. There were probably still people still alive who knew about them. They should wait, over 100 years to return to a spot. Okay, this is just one huge wank fest over how awesome the Cullens are. We also have a little, picture here. I'll show that to you. It's the Cullen house where they are, because clearly that matters. And there's Edward's and Bella's sex cottage. Yeah, I really want to see that. The garage that's larger than the house, apparently. Yeah, that's really kind of pointless. That doesn't tell me anything. That picture's really pointless. I'll just leave it at that. Okay, Cullen Coven General Studies done. Now we move on to character profiles, which I know everyone's been waiting for. It's time to do number 1. Carlisle Cullen. There is Dr. Feelgood himself. And there's the picture that they provided for him. As you can see, he's a model, you know what he means. I'm sure he does his little turn on the catwalk. Okay, name Carlisle Cullen, date of birth circa 1640. Date of transformation 1663 and approximately age 23. Source of transformation, ancient vampire living in the sewers of London. Why he was living in the sewers of London, we still don't know. He's blonde, his eye color as a human was blue, and he's 6'2". He's from England in the 1600s, and he's 6'2". I'll bet he was a little freak in nature. Well-toned, medium frame, collar-length hair, movie star, good looks. He has a slight English accent from the US, so he can speak with a flawless American accent. Well, of course. I love that she mentioned he has a slight English accent, but we never have any trace of it. Does he just choose not to, even when he doesn't have to hide? He even mentions his vehicle, a black Mercedes S55 AMG. Yeah, we had to know that. That's just the car he owned in the books. He didn't own this car constantly. That is completely unnecessary. Now it's time to get into the personal history. Carlisle's father was a crusader against evil, hunting London for witches, werewolves, and vampires. Nothing else? They believed in other supernatural things besides witches, werewolves, and vampires, Meyer. Self-righteous and compassionless, Carlisle's father caused many innocent people to be burned. Yeah, even though they didn't, burn witches and vampires and werewolves at the stake in 1600s London. And Carlisle's in charge of hunting. He was eventually discovered an actual coven of vampires living in the sewers. How did he even discover this? This is where the constant wanking over how awesome vampires are kind of falls apart. Because not only did he discover this group of vampires living in the sewers, which, what were they doing in the sewers in the first place? But one thirsty vampire emerged, only killed 2 of the vampire hunters, but wounded Carlisle. Okay, how does this work? They're invincible. They don't have anything to fear from humans, yet they were hiding in the sewers. Why weren't they just hiding out in the woods? Why weren't they just being nomadic? There was no point to this. And also, if they're so awesome and good at hiding and all that, and humans don't know about them, how did he even discover them? Now, an interesting idea would be that they laid a trap for these people. But there's the question, though, the question still remains, why did he kill 2 hunters, but leave Carlisle wounded? Did they chase him off? How did they even manage that? They're invincible, god-moding vampires. This doesn't work. Yeah, woke up a vampire, attacked the herd of deer because he was starving himself. And I actually give props to that. That's a reasonable way for a vampire to discover that they're an animal, that you can eat animals. I just don't know why it took so long for a vampire to discover it. That's the problem. Now, then he goes to Italy in the 1700s, finds the Volturi. The vampires in this coven were very different from the sewer dwellers of London. They were refined and cultured, and Carlisle admired their civility. Yes, their civility as they kill and eat lots of people. Again, you talk about Carlisle's great respect for human life. Just because he doesn't eat them doesn't mean he can just sit around and say, oh, it's so nice that everyone else does, I just don't like to. That doesn't mean he has a respect for human life just because he abstains but grins merrily when everyone else is doing it. The legend of the good vampire that Meyer made up is so stupid. Spent 20 years in Italy and then went to the New World. He was growing increasingly lonely and longed to find other vampires who believed there was a life for them that didn't involve murder. Why? He doesn't care if they do. Why is he focusing on finding someone that doesn't, believe in murder as a way of life? He doesn't care. You said it right there. He admired them. Talking about the Spanish influenza. Basically exactly how Carlisle told the story in New Moon, so it's just as stupid. Begging to save her son, intuiting that Carlisle was more than what he seemed. She died less than an hour later. Oh, the drama. Her son lay in the room with her, his own death imminent. The goodness and purity in Edward's face finally convinced Carlisle to take action. Yeah, that's the only response I really have to that. Just sit there and seed and growl. And then he turned to Esme. They knew she had attempted to commit suicide. It was impossible for him to believe that a vivacious, beautiful girl had come to this tragic end, because apparently he knew her 10 years ago and set her broken leg at some point. Could not save her life through conventional means, so he just turned her. Thanks, Carlisle. Right there! Right there! Right there! He finds Rose. She had been beaten, sexually assaulted, and left for dead. Struck by the waste of a beautiful young life, Carlisle brought Rosalie home and transformed her, hoping in the back of his mind that one day she might be a companion for Edward. Okay, I know it's not just a touchy topic for me. I know this is a touchy topic for a lot of people, even people who aren't survivors. But you know what? Meyer, did you even consider that creating a character who finds a broken, battered, dying gang rape victim in the street, who just suffered such indignities and atrocities to her person in such a horrible manner, and say, you know what? I think she'd be a great girlfriend for my son. So I'm just going to take her home, change her without her consent, and hand her vagina to my son. Do you even know how sick that is? I cannot stand Carlisle, and it's getting worse every minute. She just said right there. I always, was actually thinking maybe he started considering it after she got turned and welcomed to the family, just kind of one of those things. I wonder if they'll get along, that sort of thing. No. He picked up a dying rape victim off the street and thought to himself, I bet Edward might want to pork this. My God. This is so messed up. And he gets even more messed up. Rosalie carried the dying Emmett McCarty to Carlisle and begged Carlisle to change him. Carlisle did as she asked. Rosalie wanted a companion of her choosing, and Carlisle felt he could make amends to her in this way. Okay, I'll change this random guy. Okay, that'll make you happy. Yeah, like, there, your bone's been thrown. God! Yeah, Carlisle's over. Golly! This guy is sick! He's sick! I can't get over the Rosalie thing. I really can't. I'm having to cut out big chunks of silence again. I'm just sitting here staring off into space. Why did Meyer think that was a good idea? That's the main thing I want to know. Carlisle's the sick one, yes, but Meyer thought it up. And she's always talking about how wonderful and sweet, and he's the only vampire to ever develop, he's the first vampire to ever develop a conscience and drink human and animal blood, and he's just so awesome and wonderful, and he's kind, and everything he does is selfless, and she wrote that. He picked up a dying rape victim off the street with the sole intention of giving her to his son. No thought to her getting a choice in the matter. No thought that maybe she might not want to get into a relationship for a good long while. No thought to how she'd feel about being turned. Nothing. He saw it. Again, I'm moving on. There's the section's done. There's famous quote down here. You can look at them. I'll give you the picture as always. Again, I like I said, I don't have a scanner that'll work, so I just take pictures with my Digicam and upload them and crop them. So there you can read the quotes she picked. They're stupid. They're not famous at all. Famous quotes. It's just random quotes. There's a difference. And you notice what most of them do, they don't encompass any of his personality at all. He's talking about other people. and I've never been to veterinary school. Oh yeah, that clearly... If you hadn't read these books, how many of you can actually name what he was talking about there, what was going on? I know I can, because I'm obsessive like that, but... Okay, I'm moving on. I've noticed this, I can probably get 2 characters in here, so, I'm gonna move on and do the next one as well, and I'll probably stop there, so this won't be too long. I don't want to do an hour, just because of the removing time limits. I don't want to do that. So, next up, look who it is, guys! Edward Anthony Mason Cullen. Wow.
These are vampires, man. These are douchebags.
I love he buys a shirt too small so his bulging chest muscles constrain the buttons. Buy the right size clothes, you little twerp. It's like, yeah, this is hilarious. Look at him. He looks so stupid. Okay. June 20th is apparently his birthday. I did not know that. That's terrible. That's a terrible birthday. That's awful. That's my dad's birthday. Oh man. That sucks. Hair color, bronze. Notice that it's not red. Height 6'2". I'll be getting into that when I'm done with this. I've got issues with the height thing. We'll get into that later. Thin and lanky, but muscular. Yeah, boyish looks. Boyish looks. He's a boy, and Myra wants to have sex with him. Have I emphasized enough that this is really creepy? He has 2 medical degrees. How did he get them? I'm still waiting for an answer on that. His other graduate degrees are in literature, mathematics, law, mechanical engineering. Yeah, right. Several languages, art history, and international business. Edward owns his family's house in Chicago, and about every 50 years or so he inherits his family fortune from himself. Myra, you really need to come into the modern era, because then you might know that there's no way he could get away with that. No, the family coven relationships, she's just repeating them. She said these relationships on Carlisle's as well. She's just repeating them, just in a different order. He apparently also, I forgot to mention, that he had green eyes when he was a human. He became enamored of the life of a soldier. World War I raged during most of his adolescence, and Edward dreamed of the day he could join the battle. Like I said, it could just be him romanticizing what the war was like, but this was World War I, which was really bad. Trench warfare, that kind of stuff. The invention of the machine gun. World War I was not the war you wanted to romanticize. They romanticized World War II a lot. I've seen some of the old school cartoon propaganda and stuff they did for World War II. They romanticized World War II quite a bit to get people to join up, and before they had to enlist a draft. But World War I was not one you romanticized, and she has him romanticizing it. And I have a good question as to ask him why. Why would he? He's this little sheltered, pampered popinjay, as Hyde Snape would say. Why is he, I want to go join the fight? So like I said, the only conclusion I can come to is that I have to quote a song. I really do. So, let's see. This must have been Edward's train of thought for why he wanted to join up in World War I.
I went up there, I said, "Shrink, I want to kill. And I want to kill. I want to see blood and gore and guts and veins in my teeth. Eat dead, burnt bodies. I mean, kill. And I started jumping up and down, yelling, kill. And it started jumping up and down with me, and we was both jumping up and down, yelling, kill. And the sergeant came over, pinned a little on me, set me down the hall, said, "You're our boy."
Thank you. And remember, you can have anything you want at Alice's restaurant. total mama's boy, Spanish influenza. They all were dying. Oh, quote from Stephanie Meyer down at the bottom. Unfortunately, Edward isn't based on anybody. He is all imagination and wishing. No, he's based on some people. He really is, I can assure you. Ted Bundy comes to mind. I think his allure is partially due to his old-fashioned manners. He doesn't have old-fashioned manners. He's a gentleman. No, he's not! And those are hard to come by these days, as is proved by what you think is a gentleman. Edward formed a deep bond with Carlisle, who became his father to him, gaining Edward's trust and love the way his natural father never had. Oh dear God. No comment. These people are stupid. It was Carlisle who first noticed that Edward possessed mind-reading abilities. He noticed Edward answering questions that Carlisle had not asked out loud. It took you how long to figure this out? Wouldn't Edward be freaking out? Edward always had a knack for reading people. Yeah, and all the best ways to kill them. Only Meyer could take something as horrible as this that I just read and make me laugh. Okay, Esme joins the coven. Edward grew to love his new father, quote, and mother, quote, but as much as he respected Carlisle's ideals and valued Esme's gentleness and tenderness, he couldn't help questioning what it meant to be a vampire. Listen to this. After almost a decade of living with Carlisle, Edward decided to leave his new parents and experience an alternate style of vampire life. He just outright said he went off to be gay for a few years. He just outright stated he's going through an experimental phase. Is that what you just said? I can't. Brandon and raved about him going off to kill people, but Meyer just praised it in a way that made it sound like he went off to go experiment with some guys behind a dumpster. Oh. He's not smoking in the boys' room, he's kissing in the boys' room. Oh, Meyer, just face up to the fact. Your dream man is as gay as Paris in the springtime. It's time to face that fact, okay? Fun time's over. Reading time begins. Rather than become a true villain in his own estimation, he became a vigilante. Edward used his mind-reading abilities to target serious criminals and as his victims, murderers, rapists, abusers, pedophiles, and the like. For his first victim, he tracked down Charles Evanson, Esme's abusive ex-husband. That right there was an act of coldly calculated, premeditated murder. You can say how much you think abusive men need to be killed and all that or anything. You know, that's this. He went off to go eat people, but he had a specific person in mind. He hunted a man down deliberately to kill and eat him. This wasn't an accident. This wasn't, him going off, I can't resist, I want to try. It's not him becoming disillusioned with humanity because he can hear their thoughts and all he hears are the bad stuff because he can't focus on the good stuff. No. He left Carlisle to go hunt down Esme's ex-husband and kill him. It's purely revenge. Purely selfish revenge. And even worse, it just sounds like him cutting off all ties to her human world to make it easier for her to be married to Carlisle. I never knew he had a specific victim in mind when he went off to do this. Oh no, he went off. He left them and had one guy in mind for his first kill. Oh, you can tell. They just the image I get is he's savoring this. He's planning it out. He's on the hunt. The thrill of it all, finding this guy so I can go kill him and eat him. And of course, I'm not going to go into it here. I've already done it. a long time right here, when he brought it up in chapter 16. I talked about how he had no right to pick and choose who lives and dies. I talked about how does he know that they weren't repentant? He only reads surface thoughts. You know, he can't choose who's really, truly evil. Basically, my point is here, he's not God. And for a few years, he just sat around eating hundreds of people. He had a list, he checked it twice, and then he culled the ones he didn't like. This is her gentleman. This is her old school chivalrous dreamboat. And of course it gets even better when you look at the quote on the side from Meyer herself. I like that Edward's not so clean cut, that he has a dark side, that he's doing things that are not clearly legal or illegal. 1. I can change it, Mama. 2. Clearly legal or illegal. Notice she avoids the words right and wrong. There's no legality here, Meyer. What he was doing was wrong. It's clearly wrong. You can argue that because he was killing only bad people that makes it okay. No, it's not okay. He was playing God, and he was doing it all for his own selfish reasons. You can argue he was being a vigilante. No, he wasn't. He was doing it to fill his own gut. He was just eating these people for his own selfish reasons. That's all there was to it. Okay? And you can say that in the end, though, he couldn't accept taking so many human lives no matter the justification, and in 1931 he returned home to Carlisle and Esme and their way of life all you want. We've seen inside his head in Midnight Sun. He ain't sorry. And he never will be sorry. And because I've ranted about that so much, I'm going to move on. Again, just click the link I provided up there if you want to see my big, huge, long discussion of Edward the Murderer. That's because I'm not going to go into it here. Onward! Edward knew from hearing their thoughts that Carlisle and Esme were sometimes concerned that he had no romantic love in his life. Yeah, they were concerned he was gay! You may as well just outright say it, and they should be concerned. He ran off to San Francisco in the 30s. And they brought Rosalie in, hoping that they become a couple, but as stunningly beautiful as Rosalie was physically, Edward was not attracted to her somewhat shallow and self-absorbed mind. The feeling was mutual. Do you think Meyer realized she just implied that Rosalie knows he's also has a shallow and self-absorbed mind? I don't think she did. And just beating us over the head how he's not interested in anyone. No one interests him. He has no interest in anybody. Never interested. Then Edward met a human girl named Bella Swan. Bella was markedly different from every other person he ever met in the two impossible to overlook ways. First, her blood sang to him in the way no other humans had. Second, her mind was the first he'd encountered that was entirely closed to his mind-reading abilities. And that's how his section ends. Well, that's stupid. And then we have famous quotes. And there's 3 pages of him! How many pages of these they're all really bad quotes, too. Rereading his dialogue, I forgot how much he sucks when he talks. Yeah, I'm gonna end there. Talked about the first 2 Cullen males. I ain't impressed. Let's see, next up will be Esme and Rose. That will be the next episode. So yeah, episode, this is 4. Episode 4, we went into the Cullen overview, and then we discussed Carlisle Cullen and Edward Cullen. I've come to the conclusion they are both sick. And that's really all I have to say here. I also have to add, so far I'm not impressed with these profiles, because I'm not getting much new information. The writing is exactly the way they tell their own stories in canon. And for the most part, the artwork kind of bugs me. Edward and Carlisle looked disturbingly alike. There was nothing unique about them at all. It may just be the artist they chose. Like I said, it was the person who did the manga, but I don't know. Either way, Yeah, not impressed. You feel the need to put their cars they own in the current canon in the profile. That has no bearing on anything at all. So yeah, that's end of episode 4. I'll see you for episode 5 when I discuss Esme and Rosalie. Oh God. Pray for me, dear listener.
'Cause when you're